Welcome, everyone, to Rebirth, a D&D tale. Session number 9. Last we left off, our group of adventurers, now called the Lucky Sevens, have had some interesting encounters over the last few days as they've gone through Mountain Pass to take down a griffin and have been able to successfully collect their reward for such an endeavor, as the the town of Tri Point did not have the manpower to do such a daunting feat. But they were able to collect their uh, their the claws from the beast, and upon arriving back to Tri Point, realized that the benefactor who was going to pay them was called simply the Professor. And upon meeting him at the local tumbled wench, he turned out to be a very interesting character indeed. Why don't we get some thoughts from our characters as to what's been going on as they've been traveling from Tri Point to the Surefall Glades, and how things have kind of stirred other things into motion. Let's start with River. Your second home is just around the corner, more or less, and some interesting things have happened since you began the quest with this lucky little group. So, give us an idea of what's going in your head since the past few weeks have begun.
So, so River, he was a little uneasy about coming back to the area because of Red Hawk Keep. But since leaving that behind and getting more comfortable, he's been doing good. He's been having some fun, just traveling with everyone, exploring, and being back here, he's quite comfortable with um with the druids here. He's known them for a bit, and he plays up that he's the favorite friend of so he'll come he'll he's very much uh more or less doting on Miss Silver Oak, asking if she needs help, being very helpful and very good. He's being a good boy.
Of course, of course.
And she can't get mad at him because he's not her son. She can't get mad at him. But he can help. He's here to help, you know.
Definitely. And I'm sure Matron Silver Oak will, at some point, give you pets, because she's done so before in giving in to the charms of her beast folk friend. But she seems to drag Kinwin by the ear often enough, seeing as she's adopted him as her son, more or less, since some things had happened as when he was a child. And so, Kinwin, why don't you give us some a little bit of background as to your relationship with Matron Silver Oak and the Surefall Glades druids.
We're a human wizard and a wood elf druid that wound up settling in Sherfall Glades and having me as a baby. But the gnolls from Blackborough did a raid which wound up killing both of my parents and others. And that's when Silver Oak adopted me as her child.
What are some of the thoughts kind of going through your head as you're more or less coming home?
Well, I'm happy to be home. I've spent most of my life here, but also conflicted because of bringing all these strangers with me.
Strangers definitely seem to get under Matron Silver Oak's skin, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're a very insular community.
Rune, coming away from Tri Point, I'm sure there's a lot that's been on your mind.
Indeed, there has been. I've been processing what Professor Cypher has said. The armor that which I am embodied within is perhaps, most likely, resemblant of that of a draconian society and people long before now. Draconian being, well, dually in usage. The armor itself is resemblant of that society in that what was used for war. For their warriors, for their knights. And the concept of which is, well, it leaves me with a hypothetical. Perhaps this entire time, maybe I'm merely a machine of that purpose. Construct and design for the efforts of destruction. For what purpose would I be brought back? That I would reactivate in this day and age? I'm not sure I'm a person in that regard, but merely a tool. Yet still, there is a part of me that I don't quite understand the purpose or the logic behind which it makes me desire for something else. Against all logical reasoning and basis, against all evidence. I do not want to be merely a tool for warfare. My time with this group has been enlightening. And in many ways, I find myself grateful that maybe even if I am such a construct, even if I am not necessarily a person, perhaps I can still act with humanity. But I suppose in the coming days, we shall see.
Upon comparing yourself to the Jacks that have sort of littered the world in sort of sparse quantities, Professor Cypher said that you're not like them. So perhaps there is some truth to that. Lagon, I'm sure you have some thoughts here, as you're coming to a sort of isolated pseudo village that kind of looks as if everything could be torn down in a matter of a day and moved elsewhere.
I'm a bit confused. Kenwin invited us out here, but Miss Silver does not seem to wish us to be here. Debating on whether I should stay or go. I don't know. It looks very nice. Interesting construction. Definitely wouldn't support any members of my kind. Perhaps something to look into. She seems a very cantankerous old woman. Not at all pleased with Kinlan for some reason right now. Seems to dote on the river, so maybe I'm making too much of these.
Well, in either case, she's begun a sort of gruel dinner for all of you. A big pot of stew of some kind, of some description, is being prepared. And then we have Vanya with us. Vanya, you've been mostly quiet over the last few weeks as you've been traveling with the Lucky Sevens. What are some thoughts that you've been having in recent nights or recent days?
Well, they're certainly an interesting group to get to know, and I'm starting to like traveling with them more and more. My thoughts continuously turn back to home and how my folks are doing at the moment, and just the fact that I'm learning more and more as I go would probably make them proud. But I'm also very amused at the situation Kinlan's found himself in at the moment.
Why does that amuse you?
Well, old lady reminds me of my own mother when she got in those moods. It's a nice throwback to home.
Yes, this rather small, kind of lithe and sort of elderly woman is, as you said, cantankerous amongst all of you. She begins throwing, little bits of root vegetables and mushrooms and other such things that she can muster, throwing it all into a sort of large cooking pot. Starts to stir it and make sure that all of the ingredients kind of come to a sort of slow cook, and it's probably be about an hour and a half before the sort of root vegetables she's put in have turned soft. But she kind of, after stirring it for a moment, kind of sits down on a sort of makeshift chair that's been crafted out of a log stump and some branches that seems to permanently sit in front of this cooking fire. there are other logs that have been kind of strewn around, and other makeshift chairs that have been kind of crafted that seem to be of a constructed nature doesn't doesn't seem to harm the integrity of the plants, like nails or anything like that. Everything is strewn together with with sinew, or with ropes, or with other various things to tie things together, uh, rather than use metal objects such as nails, or planks of or plates of metal. Everything seems to be kind of observant of the integrity of the thing. And some of the logs on which you're sitting in are seem to kind of feel a little soft, like they've started to decay a little bit. But um, but most everything here seems to have a sort of set in place and let be kind of a feel to it. In the sort of small dwellings that you see kind of posted up in the trees, those are more crafted out of like hardwood planks and other such things, but still strewn together in much a similar fashion. And so um, while you're sitting in front of this cooking fire, as she's cooking, she says to you all, "So, you've come here for what exactly?"
Information mostly. We would like to look at the library when we have a chance.
"The library."
Yes. Um. He kind of looks over at Shay, and then looks back. There's some information we need about one of our compatriots.
Information about your compatriots. She kind of looks over to Shay, as you do, as the same as you do, and Shay kind of seems to seems to shrink a little, like she's not sure she wants to be the center of attention at the moment.
Uh, there was something came up. We found a crystalline structure, um, claimed to be housing Dredith.
Trade.
And this crystal spoke, by the way, and it's made mention of our friend here. So we want to find out what the crystal thinks without
And-
talking to it further.
And where did you find this crystal?
The Seameat Canal.
Seameat Canal. That's quite a ways away, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's it's in the Adamantine Reef, if I remember correctly.
You are correct, ma'am. As River said, it spoke. We were offered a job, unbeknownst to ourselves, to bring back the crystals that are binding it in place. And personally, I was wanting to find more information as to why the Wild Mother would have bound this Titan in a place other than his namesake. Why would he be so far from home?
And why would it be wanting freed?
Wanting freed.
Yes.
Well, that puts a new spin on everything now, doesn't it?
Luckily, the crystals are not so easily moved.
Well, perhaps that's with the intentions of the land. She's a strange creature, the land. Kind of works in a mysterious ways. You never know which direction the wind will blow. You never know which direction the sands will overtake. You never know which direction a seed will land.
Speaking of sands, we also have a request to visit a location within the Barrens.
Aha. You do intend to go out to the Barrens, then?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
For what purpose?
Some
Serious ziggurats out there.
yes, something was uncovered.
Yes, I've
I
heard
would
of
say
it.
I'd say
perhaps
it's educational.
Educational.
perhaps we might find out why the Barrens are spreading.
Well, that would certainly be something that I think my darling son was looking into, weren't you, Kinwin?
I was heading to the other tribes, but I felt that it would be safer in numbers, of course, and then we ran across the Dryad Titan, and a few things got in the way, which led us back here.
Ah, so that's why you're home. You got distracted, you silly boy.
We got a little turned around, but we'll head back to the sister tribes after we finish business here.
Ah, yes, yes. Well, I was hoping that that sort of information wouldn't be divulged in front of strangers, but here we are. Way to open your mouth, little one. But if you're continuing to travel with these compatriots of yours, I suppose, if you trust them, River, Kinwin, then perhaps I might be convinced. However, you know that I'm a stubborn old goat. So don't think that I'm easily won.
Of course not. I promise they'll be on their best behavior, and if not, I'll punish them myself.
Magan is completely trustworthy. He worships the Wild Mother.
Yes, I see that. Her symbols adorn all of your accoutrements.
Yes, ma'am, and you've already let me know that that means nothing to you at this point. I am well aware of where I stand with you.
The Wild Mother is simply one name to the land. You may only worship a certain aspect of her.
I know her as Melora. That's how she was introduced.
And she has many names. And of course, I'm sure she'll reveal to you more in time. As the land does have a voice.
The sea does too.
Both are the same.
Indeed.
So, you're wanting to peruse the library for information about your compatriots, about this ziggurat, about a lot of different things?
The Titan dreadeth as well.
In the case of the Titans, I can give you stories. There's nothing concrete or written. It is all word of mouth. Stories passed on by generations upon generations of the land's inhabitants. Giant beasts, or whatever it is that you want to call them, sentient creatures of all kinds, roamed the land before man was created. And for a long time during that, they also were at war. The Titans were the creations of the gods. Or so the myths say. And most, if not all, were destroyed during the calamity. Others were sealed by the gods themselves. Others were buried by the land. Only to be unearthed now. I fear that's what this ziggurat is. An omen. An omen to a Titan that may be awakening. But you're
If
not...
I might,
Could be Dradith then? The one that's waking?
Perhaps. Or others, such as Death himself, or his servants. The Titans weren't exactly fond of their gods.
I have a question.
Yes, Middleman.
How would you define a Titan? What is it to this world's history?
Titans are large, domineering. They were meant to control mankind. In one way or another. The myth goes that the Dawn Father created the sun and the moon Sehanine. That the Wild Mother is the land on which we roam. And that Moradin, the Soul Forger, crafted sentience. The soul, whatever it is you want to call it. But their brothers were jealous and made mockeries and created the Titans to domineer over the land, to ruin mankind, and cause death. Death itself is a Titan. The gods did not create us to die, but we do anyway.
Death is a Titan, then can't he be defeated like the others?
He already has, supposedly.
If he's already been defeated, then why do we still die?
Because once something has been introduced, such as a concept, it cannot be undone. Instead, such Titans must be replaced.
How does one replace a Titan?
Only through the blessing of the gods can one do that. My sister tribes would say that this is sort of heresy compared to other druids, as they revere the different elements a lot differently than we do. But we all work toward a similar goal, and that is protecting the land. Because the land, before the calamity came, did not have warriors of her own. And so in order for her to be protected, she must accept volunteers. She can only accept volunteers. She does not take from anyone. Not like the Titans. The Titans take and take and take, and do not have a benevolent shred in their existence.
I see. You believe the ziggurat an omen to this?
I do. I've only heard stories, as archaeologists from all over the kingdom have been unearthing it.
We can expect that there will be people there.
Of course. People who have come from all over the world to witness ancient history. But I fear that they will unearth something that is far greater than they expect. And will unleash something on this world that could be catastrophic.
Must be prevented.
In my understanding, it is very difficult to find. It's very difficult to convince people that what they are doing is wrong.
Especially if they're learning things about this world that many have forgotten.
I guess the thing we need to know about Reddit most is how he is bound, and if the bindings could be removed. Unless some blasted fool decides to just go in and start removing the stones willy-nilly, he is still bound, right?
You did describe that those stones are far heavier than most men can lift. I would
I
think...
could not.
I worry more about the stones talking and convincing.
Didn't seem to be just them, the rock stones being heavy, but the magical force keeping them there. To me, at least.
The binding stones are immensely heavy. I could not budge one. Not even with the help of my metal friend here. And yes, there is one stone that does talk in the center of all of these. I
Perhaps
believe to be the spirit or bound whatever of Dradith.
it could be. As legend has it that the entire country of Dradith rides upon the back of a giant turtle. But that's fanciful.
turtle
Far
or
more
just a
sensible than
regular
any of the
turtle?
stories I've heard of the gods.
What was that, Kinwin?
A lion turtle or just a regular turtle?
Who knows? It just says that there's. I've seen ancient scrawlings of the mankind of ancient times that they lived upon the back of a turtle, and that turtle
I always
moved until
heard-
it fell asleep.
I always heard it was a tiger, though. But that's probably just my mom embellishing.
Could be, but that's the story. Is that a giant turtle has the entire weight of the continent on its back, and it sleeps beneath the waves for eternity, or at least it has. It's never woken, never stirred. Occasionally you have the random tremor, and somebody thinks, oh, Dradeth might be stirring in his sleep. But, again, that's a children's tale. Not all of the Titans are in recorded history, as I've said. There are no books about such things. Only stories.
I have one last question.
Yes.
How would something such as Dradith connect to the people?
Well, perhaps it's as you've said. The stone speaks with its soul, maybe?
Would it have powers beyond that, such as the magical ability?
There are many different kinds of magical entities in this world, some of which can grant their power to others. I believe
So
many call these patrons.
it could be assumed that a Titan could function as a patron.
So could a god. So could any powerful being of that sort of magnitude.
I see.
Even dragons, if they still exist, or when they did exist.
Dragons.
Of course, they're extinct now.
We met the professor who claimed to have seen some in his lifetime.
Professor. What kind of a professor?
I'm not sure. Had a little dragonborn child with him.
I don't know of any professor.
Claimed to have seen dragons, one with 5 heads.
Poppycock.
He was an archaeologist, and as such, I will be wholly honest, Miss Silveroak. I am currently on a mission working with him, with intent to also investigate the ziggurat. Though, moving forward, I will be approaching it with your caution.
You said the gods created the Titans, and only stories exist of why or how they were created or what their purpose was.
Yes.
Do any stories still exist of why the gods created them, for what purpose?
I'm sure you know the creation of the world as your outfit would dictate. Do you not?
I know the story I was told, but it does not include the Titans.
Well, the story goes as such. The Wild Mother crafted the land with her own hands. The Dawn Father crafted the sun and shed light upon this land. The Wild Mother then created mankind. And the Soul Forger gave them a piece of himself and created their spark, their life force. These are the creator gods. But they were betrayed by their brothers, the Oblivion. And several others. Let me actually look at my notes. The Great Serpent and the Conquering King, all of which were jealous and created giants, dragons, and death out of the creations of the Wild Mother. Saddened, the Wild Mother wept and created the oceans. And she bore her son, the Storm Lord. The Dawn Father wept and took a piece of his heart and created Sahanine, that she may shed light in the dark. And the Soul Forger crafted the heavens, so that after mankind were to die, the piece of his soul that he crafted would return to him. The betrayer gods crafted the Titans, the dragons, giants, and of course death, and every giant beast that would wreck the world. That is the story. Then, of course, you have the calamity, Shonaruth, a star fallen from the sky, which wiped out the dragons. They no longer exist.
Shonaruth.
Yes.
What is this thing?
It fell from the heavens. That's all that is really known.
And nothing more than that.
You would have to go to the site of the crash, or find someone who actually has an account of such a thing. Not that such a person would exist. And learn tales of that. I am simply a wanderer.
I see.
The crash happened at the Fallfire Plains in Mesotopia, which until recently has been very isolated itself. So I've heard.
Well, it seems we've started picking up a habit of getting into isolated places. That might be a place we should visit next. And she's got a little bit of a playful smile as she says this.
Would be interesting. The professor, well, actually, Darius. He points over at Darius. Darius is from that region.
Yes, and Ian Darius speaks up, and I think the professor was as well.
Feel like taking a home trip?
I mean, sure, he says with a kind of question mark at the end of his sentence. Strange, though, he says, he pipes up. The professor definitely looks similar to someone Granny used to tell me about. Strange coincidence, I think, but very similar.
I think in the last session, Professor Cypher actually confirmed that he was the same one from the stories.
I don't know if he's pulling our leg or not with all of that, but it's weird.
Maybe we can find the five-headed dragon he claims.
Certainly would be a sight.
Vanya, strangely enough, you recall having seen during the very early years of your life, having seen a sort of whitish dragon shape going over the mountains of the country of Hessen, on the outskirts of the Greoran Empire, just over the mountains from Fallfire Plain.
She is thinking back to that and wondering if it had been some sort of dream she had had, or if she had mistaken something else. So she's keeping that to herself for the moment.
Well, dinner's almost ready. Why don't you all go wash up?
Sounds good.
The information.
River quite quickly heads for the river to go to. It's like, don't have to tell me twice.
Strange river cat, that one.
The information is largely appreciated, Miss Silver Oak. If I might.
Mm.
Would I be allowed to study the inhabitants of your hermitage? The structures are very fascinating. I will not be sharing the notes.
Taking notes does not guarantee that one will not find them. You may observe, but don't write anything down.
Very well.
But that doesn't excuse you from washing up. Go wash up.
He, double
You just hear a
checks.
splash in the distance as River has full on jumped in.
Rune, investigates his armor, as Thalia says that, and just kind of, like, looks at the dirt and grime on it. Looks back at her, and then turns around and starts marching towards the river.
He is very dusty and very grimy right now. The luster of your armor is very, very dull.
Vanya's just gonna follow, laughing a little bit. With Zephyr right at her heels.
Zephyr's definitely been enjoying the outdoors.
Oh, yes.
Before he leaves to wash up, Dawn will say a prayer for Miss uh, Silver Oak in Giant, one that you've heard before. May Melora give you for every storm a rainbow, for every tear a smile, for every care a promise, and a blessing in each trial. For every problem life sends, a faithful friend to share. For every sigh, a sweet song, and an answer for each prayer.
I have no idea what it is that you just said.
It is a prayer where I come from.
It sounded lovely. That is giant speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard a little bit before, but I know the cadence of the sound, but I don't know it myself. It's an ancient language.
So I'm told.
It makes sense since you are giantkin.
Yes.
I bet that feels weird, being the descendant of a titan.
I honestly have never thought about it. It has never crossed my mind before.
So the giants had to create their own kind at some point. Had to reproduce.
Yes.
What do you mix when you get a human and a giant together? You get giantkin, such as yourself. Many millennia ago, though, however.
I'm told if you mix anything with a dwarf, you just get a dwarf. Varying sizes of dwarf, but dwarf nonetheless.
Well,
Maybe it's the same with my kin. I don't know.
some even speculate that the dragons were the ones who created mankind and bred them to be their specific sizes. Can you believe such things?
I suppose anyone could believe anything if they've been told it long enough and have never thought to question it.
If we were the creations of the Titans, that would be silly. I think I like thinking that we're somehow connected to the gods.
I think somewhere in there is a bit of truth for all. I think some of us, some of our kind, were created by others than the gods. I don't know. I don't have the answers. But I search for them. I thank you for your time.
Question is, are you sure you want to know the truth?
I would rather go to my death knowing the truth than to live in eternal lie.
Even if that lie made you happy.
Truths are truths. Happiness is a choice. You can know the truth and still choose to be happy. But knowing a lie and being happy doesn't truly make you happy. It just makes you ignorant and uninformed.
Well, we shall see should you go to that ziggurat. Now won't we?
Hopefully we find something. I thank you for your time. And he will go to the river to wash. Again.
And of course, Shay and Darius also go to the river to kind of wash up and kind of get ready for this big pot of dinner.
Big question.
Yes.
How deep is the river?
Not terribly. It's a gradual slope.
All right, Rune just walks to the middle of it and just stands there. Unmoved.
River just swims a few laps around you.
He's just...
Vanya's just watching this, shaking her head.
Yes, it is a bit heavy for you to kind of sort of swim, Rune, but you do find yourself able to swim relatively
no.
successfully.
No, I don't think he swims at all. I think he just walks to the middle of the river and just sits there, like just stands straight up with only like his upper torso peeking out.
It's about
Currents moving and rushing by him. He's just basically a rock.
It's a gentle stream. It's not terribly like fast moving. You get the sense that this is a relatively safe spot for washing up and things like that, because it doesn't move very fast, and like you were saying, it is pretty waist deep. So you could even sit down in the river and nothing of yours is going to get washed away. So
Gotcha.
It's pretty slow moving. It's not a terribly fast moving little river, and of course, River's kind of taking full advantage and kind of swimming around.
They were told to wash up. He went for a dip instead.
He went for a full on bath.
He's like, let me just enjoy this water before we heat.
Anyone would just go up to the edge of the water, wave his staff, and say, wait.
And do what? Sorry?
I messed something up in my spell word.
Is he doing a more of a control waters kind of?
Okay, here, yeah. He says Dower Shop to use shape water to just bring the water to himself to wash up.
Okay. Using your little cantrip, you kind of bring up a splash of water into the air, kind of using it outside of the river to kind of wash your hands and wash your face a little bit, kind of fix a stray hair or two in your hair, and then you let it go, or the cantrip ends, and that little splash of water just kind of falls onto the ground, as if it had been only temporarily moved.
Lagan would be like River, full on taking a swim.
In armor or outside of or no armor? Out of. Okay.
No, out of armor, and before he gets back in, he'll dig through his bag, looking for a sachet with lavender and what's the other? Chamomile that Captain Badger gave him, because told him that he starts to stink after a while.
A little bit of fresh scent, exactly.
Yes.
Whenever River does get out of the river, he is going to shake, much like Zephyr would. Shake himself dry, get back dressed, and then go.
And of course, Zephyr has absolutely just dunked into the river, started paddling a little bit, following River a little bit, as is wont to do.
They just get out at the same time. They both shake.
Oh God, Lord help whoever's nearby when they do that.
Oh yeah, Zephyr has no real knowledge of personal space. He gets right up to Yvonnya and starts like shaking violently to get the water off.
All they hear is just like this little surprise squeak, and A little bit of a shout from Vonnie. And
But
maybe, some stern words for a certain wolf, but
he maybe cowers a little bit at the stern words, but after after it's all said and done, and you give him some pets, and helped him dry off just a little bit, he's he's uh he's back to his normal old self. And after all of you have washed up and everyone has had their fill of the water for the time being, you all make your way back to this little cooking pot at the base of the tree, where the the old woman has come down with a few wooden bowls and some bread, and kind of you notice that she doesn't exactly have enough in the way of dishes, so she's got this really kind of dense bread that she's just kind of like scooped a hole out of to put some of the stew into, and she hands that to some of you. She hands a bowl to some of you with with that chunk of bread that she's dug out of like bread bowls, and given it to others who don't have the bread with it, and she just kind of dishes it out to everyone. And
Rune stops her when she gets to him. No, thank you. I'm afraid I do not need that kind of sustenance.
don't need or can't use.
Cannot use.
You're a full-on machine, then. You're not just a man in armor.
Full on, I would say. Our druidic healing spells work on Rune, and full on construct they shouldn't work on.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know what he is. We like him.
But we're not sure what he is.
Very intriguing, weird thing indeed, Mr. Tin Man.
Indeed.
Lagan will reach over and thump him again just to hear the ring that the metal makes when he thumps it.
Strangely enough, Rune, you do feel the thumping.
It does not stop it from sounding incredibly hollow.
Sounds very hollow.
Dong!
But you do feel the thump against the metal. That is strange indeed. Never really liked metal things. Always seemed unnatural.
I assume it would be anathema to the values of your hermitage.
Tools and things are necessary as part of today's day and age. That I don't disagree with. But the sort of mass extraction of the land's valuable substances, gold, silver, platinum, iron, steel, residuum. All of these materials make up the body of the Wild Mother.
Your concerns are ecological in purpose.
I worry that taking too much from the Wild Mother is draining her. That the land cannot support that sort of take and take and take mentality. Already some of the world's regions are wasteland. Nearly frozen over.
Rune processes for a moment, recounting a lot of the ecological differences and changes to the environments that he's observed through his travels.
Mm-hmm.
Your concerns are evidential, and I find valid. Though I cannot necessarily change what I am.
You are a strange entity, that much is certain. I don't know what this world will come to. If such things continue. And so we here in the Twilight Grove must be steadfast. We must protect the resources of the land.
Rune thinks on it. Once again, Thalia just sees his eyes adjusting. Perhaps there is preservative sciences that can be upheld. It is worth research.
Much of that is already implemented, I can assure you. We have our methods for maintaining the grove.
I see.
Certainly don't want the barons to overtake the great depths and come across the lake in that regard.
Is this perhaps the reason why you have sent Kinwin out to investigate the other hermitages?
Somewhat, yes.
A worthy endeavor. And with that, Rune doesn't necessarily say much else, but rather instead just kind of goes into a sentry mode. Still present enough to listen in on what everyone is saying and walk around the hermitage as per where he needs to be. But a lot of what's going through his head is wondering if there is more than just the druidic hermitages, if there would be an sort of ecological preservation science that could be implemented throughout kingdoms and the different countries.
Okay. If you want to know more about that, make me a history check.
Aye, aye. Woohoo. That's not bad. That's not bad. Let me check what my... 14 plus 5, so 19.
Okay. So based on your travels, you've traveled through some of Fallfire, some of the Grioran Empire, and other such places along your travels, and you do know that some of them have, especially the Grioran Empire, have implemented ways in which to kind of mitigate desert growth, and a lot of what's going on here in that regard seems to be very similar in nature, in that there they're they're definitely preserving the forest against the desert, in a sort of combination of arcane and druidic sort of implementation, so far as you can tell, because that's really what's known across the world, really. Like as far as um, like uh, like sciences and things like that. Um, most most of what's going on in the world is historical in nature. Like scientific studies are primarily done by those in arcane fields to kind of bridge that gap. And so, um, in the case of magic being a primary usage when it comes to any kind of endeavor like that, is kind of how the world functions. And so, you can guess that there's something in the midst of all of their travels between the edge of the forest that they're they're implementing in order to sustain this edge of the forest, that it goes no further. But
Gotcha.
but such implementations be ceased, the forest likely would be overtaken in 200 years or so,
Interesting.
or faster, depending.
Interesting. Very interesting.
But also based on some of your information as well, you would know that there is occasionally natural phenomena that do happen to cause such things, that they're not always magical in nature as to a cause. So the 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 uncovering of the growth of the desert could be purely natural. It might not be related to anything magical at all. There's not really a way to know for 100% certain if that is the case, but you know that there is ways to prove if it is magical in nature. So if the growth of the desert isn't magical, then it's likely natural.
Indeed. Ergo our need to investigate the ziggurat. If the theory is that the ziggurat is the source of any magical properties of the Baron's growth around here, then our investigations will hopefully prove or disprove that nature.
That is the hope. And you suspect that maybe that is the professor's hope too. Perhaps that is why the professor set you on this journey, in a sense.
Interesting.
And she continues to kind of dish out food as you all finish, you know, first helpings and second helpings if you're wanting them, and kind of you know, feeds you all and herself until the pot is empty, for as long as for whoever would like it. It's very bland. You'll notice it's not seasoned very much at all. It has that very earthy flavor of root vegetables and mushrooms, but aside from that, it's rather bland. It's it's sustaining. It's food, but it's not the greatest food in the world, like restaurant quality. So it has a lot to be desired when it comes to flavor. And so, but she finishes up with that, and kind of when you're all finished, takes whatever bowls are left, and kind of climbs back up to her little hut in the tree to to go put them, clean them up or put them away or something. And so she's kind of left you all for the moment to kind of speak amongst yourselves. If you would like to.
Just as a note for while they were eating, you can see River kind of just picking through the stew, going for any bits of meat and the mushrooms, but kind of avoiding the root vegetables.
Well, it's hard to avoid a little bit because they are kind of very very soft potato like texture, in that it's kind of mushed into the rest of the rest of the food. So it's there are some chunks, but a lot of it's kind of smaller bits that have been mixed into the water.
Yeah. So he's not like outright avoiding eating it. He's just trying to get more meat and mushrooms because that's what agrees with his stomach.
Oh, okay. So he does. He starchy foods like root vegetables do not agree with Winter.
Yeah.
I think she might have forgotten that over time,
Yeah.
or that's all she had.
Yeah, like he won't bring it up, but he'll probably like take an extra helping of food when she's turned away to make sure that he's getting enough of the protein.
Mm-hmm. Delightful. Love it. Yes, of course. River is a little bit of a fussy eater, but
Doesn't mean to be. He won't say anything, but but he is making sure that he's eating what works for him.
mm-hmm.
Your people have nothing on the Titans. There are still other libraries that we could perhaps search if we need more information. What else are we hoping to gain from access to the library?
Out of character, you were wanting to learn more about what kind of a creature that Shay is, or if there's indeed some kind of curse that's beset upon her.
Rune was kind of wondering about that, and he kind of like subtly asked Thalia about it, but he didn't want to give away anything about Shay because he promised. So that's
Yeah, River kind of brought it up too, but kind of deflected on the details.
ergo him also asking about patronage, how that works necessarily.
Okay. So if you're still if you're still wanting to visit the library, it's going to take a little bit of convincing on her part.
It appears we will likely have to organize a trade.
What kind of trade?
Would it be safe to assume that your people are more trusting on acts and behaviors rather than merely words, Kinwin?
That's a pretty safe assumption.
That's accurate, yeah.
I sort of earned my keep around here.
Then it's safe to assume that we must earn Thalia's trust in that method.
Yes.
Sounds like a good idea.
And how do we do that?
We ask.
Well, I'm asking River what it is that they did to earn Thalia's trust. How did they earn? Silver Oaks Trust.
Honestly, I just behaved myself and acted how I would act around my own mother. Because my mother brought me up right. And, just act as you would with family, with people who are responsible for you. Just,
You
do your chores, help out, help out. If there's nothing you know what to do, ask if you can help. That's pretty much all I did. Note that she gestures his arm. I was injured, so I was a bit limited, but I still asked. You know, can I cut the roots? Can I, um, clean up? Can I wash the dishes? Stuff like that.
I don't know how your family works, but you've all met my family. They're not quite the same.
Darius just kind of nods in agreement.
How you would around the cook.
He tells you
No,
what to do and you do it.
exactly.
Or you get strung up in the rigging.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Just, just behave. Just behave. Do what you're told. Ask if there's anything you can do if you're not told.
I get the feeling, the evidence suggests, that perhaps Thalia is interested in knowing or perhaps preventing any further research regarding the ziggurat.
We I mean, we're heading that way anyways, so we can figure out how many people are there and how to get them to leave.
Perhaps. Tomorrow, we should speak with Miss Silveroak. Determine what it is that we may do to help her.
Yes.
Hidwin. Do you have any goals while we're here?
Finding information from the library.
Then beyond that, I suggest that we resolve any personal needs. You as well, River.
It really hasn't been that long since I left. Left, went over to the area where we all met, and then, well, you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, we weren't on the road for very long.
And it's about that time that she starts to climb back down to you all. So, night will be coming soon, and I'm sure you're all going to want rest. Um, some of you, all of you, will not fit in my little home.
Lagan looks up. Not even by myself.
No, there's very little space up there.
I don't mind sleeping outside.
sleeping under the stars.
I can always find a nice tree branch.
I also prefer to stay grounded, though the consideration I am grateful for.
So long as you all don't harm the trees.
Of course not.
If you do not harm the
Alright.
trees, they will watch over you.
You just reminded me that some big cats sleep in trees.
Yes, yes, they do.
That's what I said. That's what they said. And this probably wouldn't be new to Kinwin or Talia, but River can easily just lay on a branch and fall asleep.
He is that sort of beast folk.
You know, as long as he's off the ground, off the wet ground, he's fine.
Well, you all can sleep near the river if you'd like. I do have to speak with some of the other residents here fairly shortly because obviously the sight of strange people is enough to cause some concern. Some have already started to pack and move on.
I had a question once more, Miss Silver Oak.
Sure.
We wish to earn your trust. And perhaps the trust of your hermitage. By large. Is there anything that we may do?
Strangely enough, nothing really comes to mind. I suppose you may go into the village and see if there are some who would like assistance in packing their yurts and things up. But I wouldn't count on it. I am the most social of all of us at this particular moment, because I have to be. I am the leader.
Understood.
It is why they call me matron.
Certainly makes sense. Very well. I will discuss with my companions what we may do.
If anything, be on your way quickly. Because I don't like my people being rather on guard. It's hard enough as it is with all of the different things that we have to deal with being forest dwellers. Outsiders putting them on edge just makes it untenable.
Rune,
Go ahead.
Rune just nods politely.
As far as y'all being forest dwellers, is there a particular danger that we should be on the watch for?
There's always the rogue pack of wolves, some of which are rather large. Strangely, in the last, 200 years, according to some of my elders, some of these things have only gotten bigger and gotten weirder.
And hearing that, Vanya's just gonna look at Zephyr. Don't you go getting any bigger on me, please?
He just kind of cocks his head at you a little bit. You know that he is a fairly young pup when it comes to him being a wolf dog. But he's still got a couple of years of growing on him. He's already the size of most adult medium dogs at this moment. And you know that he could potentially get bigger, given how big some of the wolves in the Grioran Empire can get too.
She's just gonna smile and give him a scratch on the head.
Is he part wolf?
Yes, he is.
He looks it. Them big paws in his snout. Where did you get him?
He's been a companion of mine since he was young. He started in Hessen, the Grioran Empire.
Ah. I've never been to the Grioran Empire, but then again, only a few of us ever make pilgrimage out of the village anyway. You should be lucky, Kenwyn, that you were chosen to go on this pilgrimage.
You feel on.
I'm sure your companion. I'm sure she would have. Otha, that's her name. That's right. I'm sure she's made her way somewhere by now.
There's another sent out.
Of course, we sent a couple of groups. She went with. Oh, what was his name? She went out with a young man who, named Dalen. And then, of course, Kidwin and River went together, of course.
And they happened along our lot.
Odd coincidences happen, don't they?
Yes, they do. Can't say I'm upset about these certain set of coincidences, though. Quite enjoyable.
You look like you're of land elf heritage. Are you not?
That I am. Born and raised in Hessen, a little town called Hazelmeyer.
I can see the features.
Close enough to the mountain range, you hear many weird stories.
The mountains tend to tell all kinds of stories if you're listening.
They do. Tend to almost play tricks in the eyes, too. You have a professor speaking of seeing dragons in his own lifetime. Hearing that the dragons are supposedly extinct, and yet I remember as a child potentially seeing one myself over said mountains. White, pearlescent. Maybe it was just a dream.
Perhaps.
That was decades ago.
Long,
Rune
li-
is
long life tends to
focused.
do that, doesn't it?
It does. And I am still at the start of it.
Oh, go ahead, Rune.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Rune is focusing intently as soon as Vanya mentions seeing a dragon.
I've never seen one myself, but what do I know? I'm only human. Well, I can't guarantee that there's going to be much for you to find in the library that's going to sate your curiosity, but there is a small shrine that does have a few books that I'd be willing to allow you to see. The full library is meant to be protected, you see. And, well, outsiders must be invited, not the matron asked for such things. So if you walk along the lakeside of the Grey Depths, about a mile, or more like 3, from here, then you will find this little shrine. It's to the land herself, and perhaps you'll find what you're looking for there.
It's very much appreciated, ma'am.
Well, set up your camp and get some sleep. I'm sure you're going to want to go do whatever it is you're going to do first thing in the morning. I'm sorry I couldn't be of more help.
More than you had yesterday.
Sorry, what?
Information on the books. It's more info than we had yesterday.
Well, that's because you are my son. And as much as I dislike the thought of outsiders, you are still my son, and I still care for you deeply. But you have a job to do.
We'll get on that eventually.
Don't wait too long.
Of course.
Because I still need news. News from the other tribes as to how they're faring, and, of course, any sort of knowledge that they wish to impart upon you.
Your hospitality.
Understood.
Go ahead.
Understood.
she kind of pulls you, Kinwin, down to a bit of her height, because she's kind of a smaller woman, and she gives you a little kiss on your forehead, because you are a man who is of half elf descent and a little tall, and so she kisses you on the forehead, and then kind of like pats you on your shoulders and says, "All right, get going. Set up camp, stay the night, enjoy the stars and the running water, and may you have pleasant dreams."
Before she leaves, Lagan will say another blessing in giant to Thalia. May love and laughter light your days, warm your heart and home. May good and faithful friends be yours wherever you may roam. May peace and plenty bless your world with joy that long endures. May all life's passing seasons bring the best to you and yours.
And
And then he
she
will go. Sorry.
and she repeats a line in Druidic, which Kinwin and River you would understand as, "May your path be smooth, and may she guide your every step."
Then Lagan will go see to Clip and Clop, making sure they're fed, making sure they're groomed.
And after a moment, she goes back up to her little yurt, and you can see that she kind of closes a trap door behind her, and so she closes that off for the night,
I don't want to be out too late.
leaving the rest of you to yourselves.
Svanya has her little bed set up. She's going to sit there like she usually does and just play that soft tune. A bit softer this time so she's not disturbing anyone else nearby.
Ruin, noticing that Vanya took out the guitar, approaches her. If I might, may I stay nearby to listen?
Of course, I don't mind.
And Rune will sentry mode next to Vanya.
All right. And so, a lot of you set up a little bit of camp underneath the treetops of the Twilight Grove. The running water of the rivers near you, kind of lulling you all to sleep. The sound of nighttime birds like owls kind of coo in the night air. And I believe that is where we're going to take our first break. So don't go anywhere. We will be back very shortly with more Rebirth, a D&D tale. Be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone, to Rebirth, a D&D tale, Session 9. A long day has transpired, and with some new information setting up the travel that the group might be taking to the ziggurat nearby across the lake to the desert, the Lucky Sevens have decided to turn in for the night, with Rune taking his usual sort of standing sentry position, and Vanya being more or less a volunteer to take the first watch. She begins to strum a tune on her guitar, kind of lulling everyone to sleep with the sound of the running water of the river nearby, as others turn in for sleep for the moment. But Rune, you had something you wanted to say to Vanya, didn't you?
I did. For a while, up until most everyone seems to slumber off, he quietly listens to the music. It's soothing. And in a methodical sense, strumming and tunes have a sort of mathematics behind it. Rune makes note that coincidentally, Vanya seems to be strumming via Pythagorean tuning, also known as the wolf's tune. In a way, it's discordant, but intended that each little strum is meant to resound with each other. It has and has been intended to be of elven origin, to his understanding.
Also, one of the very first tunes she ever learned how to play on the guitar. One of the first things her father taught her when she was old enough to learn how to play any instrument. It even seems to lure Zephyr to sleep as he's curled up at her feet, head resting across an ankle. Just until she decides to lay down, then he'll go up to his usual spot behind her knees.
Vanya plays her elfin songs in the wolf interval. Rune finally notices everyone else fall asleep. And he finally speaks up. I had interest in knowing a bit more about you.
Is that so?
Many of the other...
She just kind of looks up at him, just still playing.
Many others seem to have some sort of... or tend to speak on their backstory. You've been very quiet.
Most of the others have interesting backstories. All mine was as I grew up in a small town, just to the west of Leafside Village. Didn't really have much adventures growing up. But not until now, at least. If you have questions, don't be afraid to ask them.
You piqued my curiosity earlier.
The dragon, yes.
If you don't mind.
That get your attention. No, I don't mind. Might help me figure out what exactly it was I saw. I was 14 when I saw it. Hazelmire is... Hang on, let me look at the map because I just picked out an area for it too. Shit. Okay, there it is. Hazelmire's a bit of a small town somewhere between Leafside Village and the Pinella Pass. Not large enough to have really disturbed the forested area around it, but big enough to be included in some of the better trade routes. One day there was a bit of a commotion. A lot of the older folk were pointing toward the mountains. There it was, just some sort of dragon. White, the sun gleaming off of it. Had everyone in a stir for the day. Only saw it maybe a couple times, and within a couple days, it never came back, and everyone just shut up about it. I tried asking questions, and no one wanted to, even think about the possibility of a dragon being in the area.
I'm sure it left quite the impressionable mark.
Did. No one wanted to satisfy their own curiosity either. It was literally there, seen a couple times one day, gone the next, and no one wanted to know anything further. Of course, I was too young to go up toward the mountains myself back then. But over time, I just chalked it up to either a dream or we saw something that we just mistaken for a dragon.
You never went to investigate on your own terms.
No. By the time I was old enough to go, it would have been long gone. At least what I thought. But I put that aside. Put my focus back into my parents' shop.
I see. I am interested in learning more about this. Whether it was a dream or reality is worth investigation. And even if, supposedly, it was there and gone, it would leave remains of some sorts.
Yes. Meeting the professor and everything we've been finding out lately has got my curiosity piqued again. It's that feeling of confusion and wonder seeing it. Haven't really seen anything like it since either. Even on my travels.
What would you do if it was not a dream?
And that she just laughs a little bit. I don't know. If there's any proof of it, maybe take it back into town and shove it in people's faces like, look, we weren't crazy. there was a dragon there. Not that that'd do much good, but
Would stand to reason.
reason does nothing against older folks in small towns, set in their ways.
Satisfaction is often its greatest reward when discoveries are made.
That it is. Perhaps it wouldn't necessarily be satisfying finding out that it was there that day. Might raise more questions. Why was it there? Where did it go if we can't find the remains there? With each question she brings up, she just gets a little bit of a bigger smile, as if she's enjoying coming up with this.
Rune makes notes. You enjoy the exploration of it.
I do. They could never really keep me out of those woods. Even though, first and foremost, I love, the shop that my parents own. The music I've been taught and create. I've always found, I guess you could say, another type of satisfaction running through the woods. Leaping over those roots. Getting cut up by all the thorns. There's a peace there. If I could take that music with me and play amongst those trees, it made it even better.
Vanya, if I might make a request.
Of course.
I'm not sure how long the seven of us will remain together in this group, but I would very much like it if you could honor me the opportunity of investigating that range with you, where you saw the dragon.
I'd enjoy that indeed. Maybe once we're done here, we can head back to Hessen. Visit home. Climb up the mountains. See what secrets they still hold.
It will be a satisfying journey indeed.
Who knows, maybe Zephyr might like it too, won't you, boy?
He just kind of nuzzles kind of closer to your ankle and kind of just huddles in for a moment.
She just kind of playfully bumps her ankle up. Doesn't really try to disturb him, but just sort of a playful annoyance.
He lifts his head up, kind of looks at you for a second. If you could see a confused look on the dog's face, he would look confused. And then goes back to laying his head down.
This is the farthest either of us have been from home. And we go farther with each and every day.
Is it hard being away?
Sometimes. That's where I get lucky by having Zephyr with me. Little living piece of home. I've got my guitar, and now I've made new friends, which make it that much easier. It's not like I can't write back home either.
And why not?
Well, I can write back home. That's the point, and I do. I write a letter, and before we leave the town that we just stopped in, it gets sent off. I always keep them updated about where I've been and people I meet. Though, they never really get a chance to write back because I never know where I'm going to end up next.
Rune is silent for a moment. His eyes zoom in on Zephyr. And when the dog makes contact with his eyes, he just quietly says, "Good dog."
And Zephyr goes back and closes his eyes.
Whereas he hasn't started nipping at me by now. Everyone else is asleep. There's always part of him that thinks I should be too.
I will take second watch.
As you wish. Shouldn't be too hard to wake me if you need anything.
I appreciate your time, Vanya, and thank you for sharing with me.
She's silent for a moment. I do appreciate your company, Rune. I really do. With that, she'll lay down and wait for Zephyr to move up to his usual position before covering up.
Kind of slides in next to your knees. He's getting pretty big. Kind of takes up that whole space as you kind of bend your knees and lay on your side for a moment. And you cover yourself and Zephyr up in the bedroll, leaving Rune to contemplate on his own for a moment.
There's lots of signs and evidence. Witness accounts of dragons, of titans. Rune feels unsteady in these grounds, because the closer we get to the conversation of gods and titans and other greater beings, the more uncertain he feels. It's almost as if there's dread building in him. But he looks on to the rest of the party. Quiet, sleeping. And as much as he's filled with dread, is he also filled with possibilities and wonder. Is it excitement? Is he happy being with these people? No. No. Ghouls don't feel happy. Ghouls don't feel dread either. But they do help. And that's what he intends to do. Help, learn, and most importantly, he needs to know.
That ever-present question of, what am I? That lingers as like a fog in your mind nearly every waking moment. The desire for knowledge, do constructs even have such desires?
It's hard to say. Evidence suggests, and it's closely affirmed, that Jacks do not. But evidence also suggests that Rune is not a Jack.
Jacks are simply commanded and they do as they're told. You have no such compulsion. What am I? Go ahead.
What indeed?
What indeed? Lagon.
Yes.
The nightmares. Normally they're ignorable, but tonight, for some reason, they plague you more than they had. The same vision over and over in your mind. The burning, the running. You look at the fire and it seems to almost engulf you as you run without end. You run faster, you run harder. You take that plunge, that sort of leap of faith. And you feel as almost time stops in your dream. You are left hanging there for a moment, watching as things seem to slow. What were your thoughts as you jumped in that moment?
Had to get away. Had to leave. Don't know why Mom told me I had to run, but I had to run.
You hear her voice screaming, still. Run away. Run, Lagon. Get out. The flames engulf her as you run. The flames engulf your father as you run. The flames engulf your village as you run. Raiders? A beast? Who knows? Walls of flame reach high into the sky, almost as tall as the mountains, it seems. But you run. And you jump. Jump off that cliff that is far too high and far too dangerous this time of year, but you have to try. Because otherwise you die. And so you dive. And there's a loud splash. And you remember blacking out. But that's not what you see now. What you see now is a porcelain face. And a bright light behind you. You see this woman in black, feathers draping her shoulders, hair that seems to spin into many directions, kind of blackening the scene behind her, and this white light opposite of her. Do you do something in the dream?
Can I turn to face her?
The porcelain woman or the light?
I thought you said the light was coming from her and she was behind me, sorry.
No, the light is on the other side of you. She's facing in front of you right now, and there's a very, very bright light on the other side of you.
Who are you? Do I know you? Try to reach out towards her.
And she reaches her hand out towards you, but a hand on your shoulder, compels you to stop. You turn around, and there's this brilliant light, blinding, that says, "It's not time." And that's when the vision fades and you find yourself in the midst of the water, the rushing water of the river below from the jump. You're tumbling, you're drowning, you're trying to breathe. You try to get your bearings, and eventually you find the surface and you take in this deep gasp of air, coughing. And that is where you jerk awake, taking that deep breath, that coughing breath, waking up with a cough.
Is anybody around me up?
The only person you see standing is Rune.
Lagon's gonna make his way over to the actual river.
You.
He's
What do you do?
going to. He's going to wash his face.
The cool
with
water's
the
refreshing.
He's gonna sit down and focus like he did before when he was at the what he believes to be the bound titan Dradith, and reach out to Melora. Whether she answers or not. That your hand on my shoulder?
You pause for a moment. You don't get any sort of indication of that. You reach out to try and properly commune and kind of set your mind. Try to blank your mind out from all of the different things that are going through your mind right now. But your mind kind of lingers on that visage of a woman. You've seen that sort of porcelain face, sort of cloak draped over her. You've seen her recently on some of the gravestones that you've passed by. And on those gravestones, a reaper's scythe. But she didn't have it in this vision. But it was that same featureless face. A sort of odd feeling just kind of takes you over for a moment.
In this moment, I don't know if Lagan knows what I know, but he is questioning everything right now. Is he some kind of plaything between two powerful entities? Are they both vying for him? He's very confused. Actually, let me see. Does Lagan know who?
Who this is? It's a religion check.
Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna use my inspiration just in case.
Okay. Roll at advantage.
Oh. Natural 20 for...
Hot damn.
20.
It's about then that you realize that, yes, this is a powerful entity. Darius has mentioned her a couple of times before. The Reaper. Or the Raven Queen.
Right.
She goes by many names, much like the Wild Mother. But it was It's in that moment that you feel a slight, sort of weird tug on your heart. And your mind kind of draws back to the Wild Mother in a sort of do not be afraid sort of a way. That you were not meant to die that day.
He's not afraid, he's just confused by this vision. He's trying to figure out. He has firm belief in Laura and the abilities that he's seen through his apprenticeship with Henry Avery. He has no doubt in her powers. The confusion comes in that he's trying to figure out if the Raven Queen has some claim on him now.
A thought kind of percolates in your mind for a moment. You've heard of gods. You've heard of titans. And something else, another word, comes to your mind. Celestial. Powerful beings, but still servants of the gods, possibly. That the Wild Mother has made her claim. Long before you knew her.
He is going to spend the rest of the evening here by the river in meditation. With the Wild Mother.
But the rest of you wake when the dawn comes. Lagan, you're not at any penalty for not having finished a long rest, as your meditation really only takes up the last portion of your sleep.
That was my next question.
Just to put your mind at ease.
Okay.
And you all are free to do as you wish, having completed a long rest.
The second Vanya got up, she would have found a piece of paper and something to write with, and would have written down everything she remembers from the day she saw that dragon.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even, drawn out a very, very rough but basic shape of what it could have looked like.
Mm-hmm.
The second she sees Rune moving, she's going to fold it up and hold it out to him.
River's going swimming. He's replaced his morning fencing with swimming.
Of course he has.
It still works the muscles, of course.
River would see that Lagan is by himself by the river.
Probably has out a few implements of his worship.
Yes.
Does Lagan look any different? Like, is his face pale, or does he look like he's just doing his normal ritual?
He's not discolored in any way, but you will know that this is not his normal ritual. This is not his normal daily prayers. He does that with all of you and all of you present. This is something else. This is something different.
River would just kind of swim by. Everything all right, amigo?
As well as it can be. How's the water?
Quite refreshing. You want to jump in?
Usually I would. And you see he's distracted. Whatever is on his mind, you've seen him enough and been around enough to know that he loves the water as much as you do. Something is on his mind. He's very distracted by it, and the water doesn't hold the same pull that it did yesterday, just last night. It's still there. He's just focused on what he's doing, and it
Amigo, I don't like to pry, but are you sure? You you've been doing a morning swim with me pretty much every day this week, so it's quite odd.
he puts down what he's doing, and for the first time he truly looks at you. I don't know anymore. I just
There's going to
know.
go ahead.
That's all he says, and it's almost very soft, quiet whisper. I just don't know. Don't know what it means. And he's still very distracted.
River will kind of swim closer, uh, keeping modest in the water. You do not know what wet means. What is it that has you so distracted?
Even Darius doesn't know this. He knows I have nightmares. That's why he plays the sound of ocean waves like he does.
And these night terrors,
Come from my childhood. And how he came to meet me. My village was destroyed one night. By whom or what I do not know, other than fire. Fire everywhere. And my mother screaming for me to run, to flee. And the only safe way I saw was through the mountains, off the cliff into the sapphire sea. And that was where I met the crew of the Anne Bonny. And through them, Darius.
So you dream about this night?
Always. But last night I see something very different. And I don't know what it means.
What is it that you saw?
It was like time stood still after I dove. Before the blackness came, before the water washed over and have you seen the images on the headstones as we've come through?
I have.
I saw the Raven Queen. I think I tried to talk to her. And then there was a blinding light. I don't know what it means.
And River just kind of sits in the water and thinks about it. I did not grow up on stories and religion, so I don't know much about the Raven Queen or what this light could be.
He knows it was the Raven Queen, and I did not grow up with stories of the gods. I found Melora through the crew of the Anne Bonny, my apprenticeship with Sailmaster Henry Avery. He taught me everything I know.
Perhaps we can find someone a little more well versed, and they might be able to explain your nightmares. And why is it the Raven Queen and this blinding light appeared?
He's trying to be as open as he can without giving everything away. He is just keeping back the feeling of a hand on his shoulder and then the intense blinding light as he turned to look at it.
Just kind of glances out to the party or to everyone else, and it's like, Kianwon might know something. I'm not sure, but if Well, we could always stop by. Tim.
I appreciate. I feel this is something I must find on my own. And he continues to sit there, but he moves forward and sticks his feet into the water. And he picks up one of the implements he set down again and begins to meditate and focus.
And like always, the water feels calming, welcoming.
Well, I'll leave you alone for now, but you don't have to do things alone. You can always depend on other people.
It's hard to depend on others when so many have proven unreliable.
But that doesn't mean that everyone is, though. And sometimes you have to rely on others.
That's what a crew is for. I am trying.
Oh.
I think
You can consider us your crew. You can depend on us.
some of you I can depend on getting me in trouble.
Your eyes kind of tick over to Darius.
lightly onto Shay.
With that, Rivers, oh, you had more to say?
I am trying. Thank you. As I said, not even Darius knows this.
Well, I'm always good for listening.
I appreciate that.
And River's gonna go back and continue swimming.
And after some swimming, some daily prayers and meditations and other such things that the Lucky Sevens do in their morning routine, where are you off to next?
I believe we're off to see the wizard.
I think the immediate goal is to look at the library.
I think we're trying to find the library.
That little shrine that she mentioned that was a little up the ways? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so, you all make the short trek. As she said, it wasn't terribly far away from where they were, where the village had been set up. And you see sort of a almost like a gazebo in a way. It's kind of a hexagram sort of building. It seems to be built with a bit more purpose than perhaps some of the dwellings that have the dwellings that have sort of semi-permanence in the village. This seems to be here with the intent of lasting who knows how long, almost as if it's a sort of landmark in a way. It has a couple of benches, and you see that there's on the kind of sort of back wall of it, because the back wall is kind of solid, that there is a sort of small altar with a very simplistic image of the wild mother, as many depict her, in a sort of kneeling position, with almost seems like the world is in her lap. And the the sort of back of it is adorned with all sorts of decorations. Things are hung from the figure, like little flower crowns and wreaths, and all of which have sort of dried and kind of wilted and other such things of any kind of natural form. But there are a couple of a couple of books that you do see that are um, kind of up against the back side, kind of stacked on a sort of bookshelf kind of way. Um, you see that there have been offerings kind of set in front of the altar, and you see that there's some somewhat rotting food. Um, of a lot of descriptions. So it does smell a little bit of mold and sort of food rot and things like that in this little area. But um, the symbol of the Wild Mother is clearly uh, sort of indicated on the front of the altar itself, um, and the sort of common image, kind of looking in a kneeling position, kind of looking as if she's watching the sort of round world like shape in her lap, um, kind of carved with long hair and sort of kind of a natural motif to the look of her, kind of all in stone. Looks handworked. It's very simple and um, kind of a that's what you see. Where the rest of the shrine itself, the sort of bookcase and everything else is made of wood, of actual wooden planks that have been worked and treated. It looks like to stand the test of time. Um, sort of overgrown and a little bit of greenery. Um, not that that seems to seems to upset anything. It looks like it's kind of made in a way to kind of facilitate that in a way too, um, and kind of has a little bit of a step to get it to the kind of building portion. It has a bit of a hexagonal roof that kind of goes up to a peak, uh, and but it's definitely very pretty for those who are reverent of the land and of the Wild Mother, and so those who are sort of in that nature would find a little bit of comfort here. It's not that it's necessarily sanctified in any kind of way that you can tell, but it sort of has that sense, that sort of air, that it's very built in reverence. And it does seem
You
like
said
there's only a couple of books here. Yes.
you said there was a shrine here
Yep.
and what looked like offerings that had been left by others.
Yes. Yes, that's correct.
Lagan will take a seashell from well, half a seashell from a clam
Mm-hmm.
and a small vial of seawater that he got from Master Every,
Mm-hmm.
and he will place this in on the shrine, and he will add the seawater to the shell so that it's actually holding it
Mm-hmm.
on the shrine as an offering.
Okay. It kind of gives you, like the usual sort of when you do place offerings at altars and shrines and temples and other such things. It does kind of give you that sort of warm feeling that you usually get from such a gesture.
Rune is going to take a second, and I'm going to cast Detect Magic as a ritual.
Sure. You have that prepared today.
I do not have it prepared. Do I need to have it prepared for rituals?
Since artificer spells work very much like cleric spells do, the need for it being prepared is a requirement for doing a ritual. Only wizards can perform rituals from their spell book because that is a component that they use to make the ritual.
Gotcha. Okay. Never mind then.
Lagan can ritually cast that if that's something you're actually wanting to do.
Yes.
Lagan does have that prepared.
Okay.
So it's going to take 10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
While they're doing that, River's going to take a book and just start flipping through it.
Okay. And so when you take the book, so the things that you all were wanting to learn about were things regarding Shay, things regarding the Titans, things regarding Rune. Was there anything else?
The ziggurat.
Ziggurat? Okay. The book that you're looking at is religious in nature. It looks like it is a sort of scripture in a way that that was kind of placed here. And so thumbing through it, you see a lot of the common sort of different things when it comes to religious morality, the creation of the world, the sort of common things. And much as you're thumbing through it, the names of the gods that Thalia brought up are all written in here, and and so you're kind of thumbing through it, and it kind of goes into a little bit of detail as to who created what Titan, and so you would find that the let me actually pull up my notes again because I forgot again because I'm a dummy. Where's my primers? But yeah, you would see the sort of things that you see in the primers that we have for the religion of the worlds. A lot of that in there, where the great serpent was the one who created the giants, the conquering king created dragons, and Tharizdun the Oblivion created death. And so you would see a lot of that in there, and sort of, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do specifically with any particular religion, though. It seems to be a little bit broader than that, and so the thought is that it's kind of just a general, be good kind of a thing. But in describing some of the dragons and titans that and giants and things like that, the names that kind of come up are Moirin, the mother of giants, Bahamut, the platinum dragon, and Dradith, the conqueror. These sort of giant, kind of monstrous beast that sort of tore through the land, collecting what it would, piling it all on its back, and when it was felled, it kind of sank into the water and became, and its hand that held most of, a hand and back that held most of the land that it had claimed from everywhere, carving out different things, all kind of settled and became the continent known as Drytith. The dragons conquering mankind and sort of using them for their wars against the giants. The other such titans kind of claiming sovereignty over different places, fiends of all kinds, something called the Fae. And so it kind of outlines that these creatures kind of tore through the land, conquering and warring until the calamity, which sort of sealed and stopped all of the fighting. Or at least that's how it's told.
Does it describe specifically what Dradith is? Just a giant, a titan, or
It's a titanic sort of turtle in a way that that kind of tore through the land, claiming actual land mass, taking it with it, and when it was felled by little Jasmine of the giants, it sunk into the water and became the continent.
ah?
So, it was just a turtle. Not a tiger turtle, not a lion turtle, just a turtle.
Just a very giant turtle.
How boring is that?
I know, right? River will pass this book off to whoever wants to read through it and grab another book.
Vanya would have taken it to flip through it.
Rune stands next to Vanya, and as she flips through it, he just commits everything to memory.
The name Bahamut definitely does kind of rattle in your head a little bit, Rune. Platinum Dragon, and Vanya, you would kind of think of this too, kind of describes the color of Vanya, the dragon that you saw in the mountains. And Rune would seem to have been at least to your mind, a sort of ruler to have such a title.
She pauses on the page and it probably rereads it like 3 or 4 times.
And that color also seems to describe that little dragonborn that was with the professor. Kind of look at a platinum piece that one of you has, and it's very similar in color.
She kind of looks up at Rune like, you don't think. It couldn't have been possible. There's no way.
It seems familiar, but I don't know with any certainty if the two are related. It's worth inquiry later, when I speak with Professor Cipher once more.
It is.
But in regards to what you told me last night, does the description seem familiar to you?
It does. It's a little too on the nose, actually. But this being over Hessen, I don't understand why.
Are there tales of such being within Hessen history?
Would I know anything about that?
That would be a religion or history.
Rune would like to help.
Then I'd do so at advantage, Vanya.
Let's do history. Same modifier regardless, but still.
Mm-hmm.
10.
10?
10.
Kind of racking your brain. It's hard to say, because platinum is definitely a very common color amongst the Empire. That's it's hard to really pinpoint something, because there's no iconography in the Empire that would kind of lead you to believe that that such a figure existed in history. This is, for all intents and purposes, a myth. And because you didn't grow up in such a religious sort of country, that any kind of religious standpoint from it, you're like, you have no bearing for it. And so Bahamut, the Platinum Dragon, seems like a title, if anything. But who knows if even that's true.
Yeah. Nothing that can come to mind. It's just stories, legends. It would seem more like a title for conqueror or king or something.
Fascinating. It would not be unusual. Perhaps in ancient history, and of older societies, that this was a common factor. Great beings or wizards were given such titleship. Titans. I know little about.
All I know are the stories that come through town. Religious standpoints, it's never something that exists in the Empire.
And mythology is rarely something trusted, as it changes
Exactly.
based on the opinions.
It's on opinions, beliefs of whatever region you're in.
Rune takes out his journal and begins writing down notes. He's been doing this a lot lately.
A lot more than usual.
At least, as much as he can outside of Lady Silver Oak's view.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Think you might be needing a new one of those soon.
You may very well be correct.
I don't think I've seen you stop writing since we got here.
I would think at this point detect magic would now be active.
Yes. Yes, it would. You don't detect anything overtly magical, aside from the items that are already on your persons.
Okay.
It's simply a simple shrine.
Okay.
River, you were going through another book? Let's see. trying to think. I did not properly prepare for a library dump, so
Um,
I'm a little caught off guard. What do you
River would a little more specifically be looking for information for Shay.
information on Shay? Okay.
So things about creatures that can change their shape.
Probably the closest thing that you find reference to in that is a set of creatures called doppels. Doppels were said to have a sort of, and you kind of get this in the sense of this particular book, that this is a little bit in more of a personal accounting kind of a thing. It's more of a journal that a person wrote, and it's fairly old, based on personal interactions with this sort of ancient species. That no matter where they go, they can adapt quickly to their surroundings. That legend has it that they were the original beings created by the Wild Mother. That it is the way that in which they have adapted to their environments that created mankind as you know it today, being humans, elves, dwarves, gnomes, and the like. That each one is a separation and a continuation of that appearance through generations and millennia of adapting to their environment. And that it is said that the original form in which they had was something that could no longer be known. That it is in their nature to adapt and to continue to adapt. And that any semblance of that sort of being doesn't exist anymore. Where there are no creatures in mankind, so far as anyone else is concerned, that has that sort of ability. Now, you know that to be somewhat untrue because Shay is a creature that can transform and adapt at will, it seems. Where the information that you're reading says that doppels would change over time, not immediately. So, while this is the closest thing that you can tell, Shay's abilities are something else. Maybe similar, but accelerated? Question mark? Or perhaps it even is a curse that's undetectable by any kind of magical means, like she fears.
River would end up sharing this with Shay, and kind of saying stuff like, perhaps there was a small strand of these doppels who still exist. Maybe you're from them, or maybe they're. He'll spout out a few theories, or maybe, maybe there were doppels that could just rapidly change and no one realized because they didn't really announce it. And being that she is adopted, possibly this would be like her real family with doppels or something. Just saying a few theories to her.
Mm-hmm.
But also just showing her that there's nothing wrong with changing, that the Doppels could change. They were a race of humanoids. They were still people. And so she shouldn't think herself as any less than a person.
And you can tell that she's kind of mulling a lot of this over in her head, that she kind of takes the book from you and kind of goes over it a little bit herself as you're pointing it out to her, and kind of sits with it in thought for a little while. And you kind of thumb through the rest of the books here, and it seems to be kind of just a little bit of a little random assortment of this and that seem to be of a sort of land reverence sort of nature, like a prayer book, like a hymn book, like a hymn book in Vanya. You probably would have a little bit of a curiosity for it, because it does have musical charts in it that you could potentially play if you desired to take it with you. But
She would at least ask Rune to make her some copies of the charts.
Of some of the songs, okay.
Yeah, that way she's not taking the full thing, but she still has her own copies of them.
He does precisely that.
Okay. You could look at a couple of pages. You start copying the notes and the words, and kind of take note of those. The first couple that you see in the book, and so you now have 3 hymns to the Wild Mother in your possession for the ability to play.
That's going to be so weird to her because she's not religious.
But yes, you now have that in your possession.
Yay.
And that really about sums up what is the makeup of this place. As far as the books that are here.
On the notes of the Doppels, does it mention a location?
River, going through the book, you would see that there's no notable location that would have been described. Just that they existed everywhere and currently don't. But to Kinwin, this would definitely stand out to you, because you know that a lot of the teachings of the Children of Earth, the Children of the Land tribes, that a lot of their reverence comes from how the Doppels revered the land itself. And so that's how a lot of them turned that into a sort of druidic tradition.
Yeah.
And so that's that about sums up what the available information is at this little shrine.
Do any of the hymns look familiar to Lagan?
Make me a performance plus intelligence, not charisma.
Okay. Performance, intelligence.
Yep. Instead of using your charisma, you're using your intelligence modifier.
So, -1. Yay. Okay.
I thought you had a -1 charisma and a 0 on your intelligence.
Yeah.
So it's
0 on intelligence and -1 for charisma.
So using your intelligence, that's a d20 roll plus 0.
Okay. Alright.
proficiency in intelligence. Can I assist?
You have proficiency in intelligence saving throws. That's different. Is that correct? I don't know. Uh,
Yes.
but
It does say
this
saving
is just
throws
a
at the bottom.
this is just a sort of I'm kind of combining both history and music and performance together in a role in a way. This is why it's a little bit of an odd role. Uh, so if you have proficiency in performance, you can add that too. But otherwise, it's just an intelligence roll.
Another 20.
Oh, natural 20.
Yeah.
Oh damn! You sir are a beast.
Sorry.
Mojo dice.
Definitely.
Somebody's got to negate the Derek dice.
Definitely Mojo dice. Yep. But upon looking at some of the hymns through the book, once Runes kind of jotted down the first few that are kind of listed in there, you kind of thumb through it yourself, and one of which that stands out particularly to you is sort of a like a seafaring sort of hymn kind of thing. It's not one that you've heard Henry singing much, but sometimes.
Okay.
But there's a couple of times that you swear you might have heard him humming this tune, looking at how the notes are kind of spread out and kind of thinking how it might be performed in your head. This might be something closer to probably a temple song, uh, like a seafaring sort of like a just kind of a it seems kind of like it would be upbeat. It might be
Uh,
something that Henry would like.
as I'm going through the memory, I start humming it myself.
And you're
The
doing
way
actually really well.
remember.
Anya tilts her head just a little bit hearing it, then takes a look at the page and starts to play along because she does have her guitar on her. Doesn't really leave that behind anymore.
And so you start playing the notes that are on the page, and Lagan, you hum the tune, and when both of you kind of combine that together, it definitely sounds very upbeat and uplifting, and looking at the words it looks like an old version of Common, but it's definitely kind of seems to be sung with an accent to a degree, uh, in that it definitely has the sort of Rivers Common sort of a feel to it. It feels like it would be sung by people of the Kingdom of Argyll.
Okay.
And so you kind of play the tune, and if you can kind of picture it, it's a little bit of it has almost a mariachi kind of feel.
Okay. Now, Lagan is trying to get into this because he's shaken by that vision. He's trying to find any connection to Melora right now that he can.
Yeah.
Because that's got him very worried.
And as you're kind of singing and humming, and Vanya is playing the tune, and you're kind of connecting in that sort of way, you again get that sort of pleased feeling that you usually get when it comes to offerings that you make to the Wild Mother, in that you get the sense that she hears you.
Okay.
She hears you, and that she sees you, and that she's not left you. You get that sort of by singing this song and kind of really connecting with the fact that it has a very kind of seafaring kind of a jibe to it, that it's upbeat and uplifting, that it kind of lifts your spirits a little bit, in that in that you feel like what little strings that may have frayed in your mind have reknit.
Okay.
Not that they have broken at all.
Right. The question in his mind was, this my choice or theirs? That's the only thing that still lingers. Was this their choice or my choice?
To live?
No. Did she choose to intercede, or did I make the choice to go with her? He doesn't.
Ah, that he'll still have to explore.
Okay.
But you can rest assured that she will walk with you in this journey.
All right. That definitely takes a weight off of Lagon's mind at this point. He still has questions, but he's not doubting his faith in Melora. That was never the question. It was, what does this mean?
Right. That there is a reason it was brought up, but it's almost as if you get a sense that to reveal it all at once would overwhelm you.
Fry me out. Okay.
Because
he will be patient and say a silent prayer of thank you to Melora.
and you definitely get the sense of be patient with me.
Please be patient with me as well.
All right. With that, the sort of rekindled sort of patience and sort of need for answers being quelled for the moment when in Lagon and perhaps other members of the party. I think that's where we're gonna call it for tonight, because our good friend Darkwolf does have some things to get to here in just a few minutes. So, thank you guys so much for playing. I hope you enjoyed all of the lore dumps, because
Thank you for running.
because this is a lot of me talking and not a whole lot of you guys interacting, and I feel like that's doing you guys a bit of a disservice. But if that's what
sometimes you gotta have the lore done.
if that's what you guys want, like, go to the Ziggurat. You're gonna find more, um, as well as some of your other traditional D&D stuff. I promise. But you guys are great. Thank you guys so much for playing. So we're gonna move on to some experience for our lovely players.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. So everybody gets 5 for showing up. It's their participation award. And much like we do in Vampire on this channel, we have 3 different role-playing categories in which our characters have a little bit more of a say in who gets what. So while I'm getting together the audience favorite poll, we have who had the best line, who had the best scene, and who moved the plot the furthest in tonight's show. So, who moved our plot the furthest?
I'm gonna vie for River, as he did a lot of the talking to Miss Silver Oak.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Yeah, so will I also laid out what we kind of need to do to earn her trust.
I'd have to agree.
All right, majority vote River.
Yay, my second bonus point.
Congratulations!
Congratulations! Yay!
I'll stop counting after this.
Who had the best scene, though?
I'm gonna say Rune and Vanya.
Yeah, Rune and Vanya had a good scene.
They're,
feel like it.
They're just before bed scene.
Yeah.
Had a good connecting moment, but I will succeed to Vanya for that one.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if everybody's kind of thinking that scene was the good one, then Rune will give up his seat and give it to Vanya. Then I think that's the direction. Unless there's a different contender.
I was going to throw my hat in there, but no, I'll give it to them.
Okay. What you think, Loden?
Group consensus sounds good.
Okay. Then I think the group is consensusing on Vanya.
Yep.
Woohoo. Thank you.
Who had our best line for tonight?
Has Lagan won before for the usage of his prayer book? Because if not, I'd like to nominate him for that.
Okay. So there's one for the prayers. Okay.
I'd have to agree on that. I
Yeah.
feel like I threw my vote in for Kinwin using the Elven language a lot for best line because I enjoy the fuck out of that. Goes to Lagan. I do very much like that he's got his prayers.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll agree.
Cool beans. Then we'll give it to Lagan for prayers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just as a note, this is the one time that will happen. Other poignant lines,
We didn't really have any quips today.
Well, it could be quips, it could be poignant, it could be plot relevance, it could be anything really. But
The only thing that I had, and I wasn't even thinking of the prayers, was specifically, please be patient with me too.
That's adorable.
The only thing I would have had would have been, I've had a relatively boring backstory. Because she didn't have all those adventures growing up. She was literally just a good kid.
But she saw a giant kind of pearlescent, almost platinum dragon in her childhood. So who knows?
Right?
Maybe it wasn't so dull.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I suppose you won't know until you ask.
Mm-hmm.
But if everyone's kind of on the consensus of Lagan, then to Lagan it goes for our best lines.
Thank you.
We've got the audience poll going, so don't forget to !vote for the character in which you would like to see receive a bonus experience. For today, we have a vote currently for Rune and for Vanya, so don't forget to do that. So how did you guys like the session?
It was good.
Good.
I loved it.
Love it.
It was great.
And I
Some-
hate you.
Oh my god, so many notes, dude.
Bruh.
I think this is the most notes I've had in a session.
Look, I got 3 doodles out of it. It's a good session.
Love it to see it.
I love the game, and at this moment, part of me hates you.
Because I dug the knife in and I twisted, right?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes.
You're welcome. This is what I do. This is
I
what I
know.
do as
I'm
a storyteller.
Well aware. I'm
Mojo.
well aware.
So bad. So badly. I want Rune and Lagan to be like very much have like a Gimli and Legolas relationship.
I want that too. I just don't know how that's going to happen between these two.
Gotta bridge
They need
that
to have
gap
their
somehow.
moment.
They need to have their
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Slowly I'm making my way down the list. Like I've had my moment. I've had the moment with Shay. I've had the moment with Vanya.
Yep.
Oh my god, it's a 4-way split right now, and I think there's only a few minutes left on the poll. There's 3 minutes left. You guys are splitting the vote.
Rune,
God, shenanigans.
Come
Yes.
on.
somebody, please break this because
Exclamation
it's
point
either all
vote.
or nothing.
We just need three more people to vote for the other 3 members and have a 7-way tie, and then you have to just give all of us a 1.
Duh.
Trust me. Just don't tell the elf. Love it. Love to see it. But yes, I enjoyed all of tonight's session. It was fantastic. You guys are a great cast, and we missed you, Quingar and Pale. We missed you guys being here.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm gonna take this.
So they should really watch the VOD because they need the war dumps.
Yes. Yes.
We're not gonna reiterate this.
Oh, that seems
We
so
said
unfair.
it once.
Seems so
Watch the
unfair.
VOD.
Yes, but
Rune will reiterate it.
oh yeah, if you want to share notes, you can feel free to do so in our private chat for the game, so that
Oh, yeah, we
everybody's
can
on
do that.
board.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So that everybody's on
I-
board.
I swear I almost feel like we need a folder just in the drive for Rune's notes. It's like, Rune's database, right there.
You get an internal dialogue.
Y'all are dishing out homework now. Yes, Black Wolf, homework. No, not really. Not really. I mean, easy access to the VODs is really the easiest way to do homework if you decide to do so. But yeah, I do want to take a quick moment while the poll is still going to remind you guys that it is September. This is the last day that this channel is going to be broadcasting for you guys to take advantage of the reduced prices on subscriptions. So if you don't have one or you want to gift some away, now is the time to do it because it is the cheapest it will be all year. So the next time that's coming around is going to be a year from now, and who knows if we're going to be able to take advantage of it all months next time. So if you're gonna do so now, because best price and still supports me in the same way that it always does. So, and every bit of that goes right back to the channel, really, because I spend so much time making assets, making art, making so much of the stuff that goes into this channel. So every little bit that you guys contribute definitely helps in every way that it can. So, that is my shill. I will stop shilling now.
Come on, guys. 25 seconds. Somebody. Anybody. Just throw a vote in somewhere.
Yep. 30 seconds.
Please. Use
love
channel
the
points or
shenanigans.
something.
No, well, since it's a Streamlabs poll, it doesn't have channel points, so
We
opt
can't
as
do
an
the
option.
channel points.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
Can't use channel points as an option, sadly, for the Streamlabs polls, because the Streamlabs polls are locked into one vote. Sadly, the Twitch polls will let you do that, but not Streamlabs polls.
Bummer.
And
He's tied.
it is still tied. Yep. So, for all of you at home, or in my cast, do you want a high or low on a D20?
Low.
So,
Low.
Low? For the 4 characters that it was a tie between? Okay. Low. Give me 1 second to roll a D20.
10 and under.
Nope, it is a 19.
No!
Ah,
Oh, well.
Oh well. Womp womp. Nobody gets the bonus for the audience. So that's the drawback, audience. If you tie it up like that, then it is possible that our characters don't get your votes or the experience you want to grant them. So sadly,
Do
that's
we
just how the
get-
dice work.
Do we get any do we get any experience for all the information we've got?
Oh, right, because I give you the 5 for showing up. The 3 for doing the task you were completing today. I'm gonna say 2.
Okay.
So a total of 7 for everyone at the table.
That works.
All right.
That puts me
And then
at
of course
30.
your bonus. And so that completes the session for today. Thank you guys so much for watching here on Twitch and on YouTube. I know that there are some people out there that actually do watch my VODs. Thank you guys so much. I see you, your support, and your watching is definitely very much appreciated. And with all of the people who have followed and re-upped their subs, thank you guys so much for coming by and doing that, and for the follows and all of that. So, in conclusion, thank you guys so much for being cast members and for watching. And until next time, say goodnight, everyone.
That.
Good night.
Good night.